Have you ever seen one of these, Jonathan? Have you come?
Oh, sure.
Clayton? Huh? This is what I'm on a piece of land look at, Kevin. Excuse me. Has a lot of these trees on it. Pawpaw. You ever heard of a pawpaw? Really? Anyway, they taste something between banana and something else. Used to be a lot of trees that are dying out. He was lucky to have some on that problem. I had some when I was growing up, they died away. They get black, really. Okay, they're black or green, neither. But a lot of people go hunt for those things. Places. But West Virginia boys done never seen a pawpaw. All right. So much for the lesson on fruit. Okay, we got a couple of problems to wrap up in chapter 5. Chapter 5 was on capital gains and losses. And I asked you to do a Schedule D. Has anybody got that Schedule D done? When you're supposed to have it finished by?
You did.
I'll give you a date now. The next class meeting, Thursday, okay? Now, Thursday, we'll wrap up a couple of problems on that chapter and Schedule D. Now, we'll still, in chapter 6, we'll still look at more of that. But now midterms are coming up. Probably the grade you have is the only grade you'll have for midterm. And nobody will get a D or an F turned in for midterm. I think that's sometime in October. But this is one class usually I don't have to turn in a D or an F. All right. But today we're going to start an important chapter, probably the most important chapter other than knowing the basics in chapter 2 and 3. I hope my PowerPoint opens up in this crazy thing. I download it. It doesn't. I don't know if I'm missing something here or not. Winners cannot complete this extraction. I download that straight from their website. I'm gonna have to look at that after class. So I got to go to a PowerPoint for last year until I get that one straightened out. Now I'm skipping chapter 6 for the moment. We'll get back to chapter 6 later. But this is pretty much one of the most important chapters in the book. I didn't assign it, but I want you to read it, have that tax problem done by Thursday, read this chapter by Thursday. If you get time, start working on some even problems in chapter 7. All right. Now, chapter 7 is itemized deductions. Okay. I'm just going to flip through these. Now, with the standard deduction being 12,000, less people will itemize. Trump's law changed that, but a lot of people still itemize, and it's an important chapter. Basically, Trump's laws haven't changed what can be itemized. I think they did away with maybe state taxes or something like that. But now, if you have a book, let's start on page 2 on medical expenses. Your dependent, you can take their deductions, include those paid on behalf of a taxpayer's dependent as well on behalf of a person for whom the taxpayer could take a dependent exemption, except for the failure to meet the gross income test. So you can take the medical expenses of mom and dad and children. All right. Qualifying medical expenses. Look at page 7-3 in your textbook. 7-3 in your textbook. Now, I want to see if I can get something up here similar. You deduct medical expenses, the taxpayer, the taxpayer's dependent, and even children of divorced parents. Now, here should be about the same thing that you see on page 3. All right, you can deduct diagnosis, cure, treatment, or prevention of disease, medical insurance, transportation, long-term care, and affects structure of function of the body. Now, diagnosis, cure. Now, can you go to a faith healer? Yeah. Christian Science practitioner? Yeah. Chiropractor? Yeah. Diagnosis, cure, treatment. This includes doctors, dentists, and so forth. Your medical insurance. Now, a lot of people don't take their transportation. If you had to drive from here to Charlottesville or here to Duke or here to Wake Forest, you can take that mileage, but you have to watch what percent mile that is. A lot of people don't take that when they go for medical treatment. Okay. And long-term care now, that's just probably insurance puts you in a nursing home. Affects structure or function of the body. Now, let's flip a screen here. Physician, physical and dental exams. All right. Weight loss program prescribed by a physician to cure a specific diagnosis such as hypertension, diabetes, may qualify as a deduction. Medical treatment must be illegal. So an illegal abortion would not be deductible. And medical treatment cannot be for controlled substance. If you're hooked on drugs, hey, Georgie. Now, non-prescription. Georgie, are you working right now?
No, I have a class in international business.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any time to tutor a student in your schedule when you're working?
Yeah.
All right, would you stop by and see Johnny? He's the work study downstairs when you can.
John, okay.
Johnny, you know Johnny?
John Smith?
No, just Johnny, not John Sneed. Johnny is a big old boy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's a work study, sits over there.
He needs tutoring?
Huh?
He needs tutoring?
He needs tutoring.
Sounds good, I will.
Okay.
All right, see you later.
Okay. Johnny needs tutoring, and he gets to run around up on the hill with financial services and so forth. And around here, you do get to run around sometimes, okay? But anyway, medical treatment must be illegal. Non-prescription drugs are not deductible. But if you can get the doctor to prescribe you the same thing you get over the counter, then it's tax deductible if he prescribes it. Special camps or schools that have appropriate medical equipment program for children with physical learning may be deductible. Now, special equipment, Cole wears glasses, they'd be deductible. Clayton back there has false teeth, they would be deductible, okay? Jonathan sometimes has to use a wheelchair around the house. That wheelchair is deductible, okay? But anyhow, so anything that aids and assists you is deductible. Wheelchairs and crutches and canes. And even if you have to build a ramp at your house for that wheelchair, it can be deductible for certain conditions about adding value to your home. If your doctor prescribes that you should swim and you have to add a swimming pool, it may be deductible. So a lot of medical expenses are deductible. And now look at page 4, and find me how much per mile for transportation is deductible. It should be in that bottom paragraph, transportation essential for medical care. Do you see a number there? Have you found 18 cents? All right, so let's say you drove 100 miles for medical times 18 cents. Well, that's $18 100 miles, isn't it? 500 miles would be $90. All right, look at this one. Physical therapy is deductible. Eyeglasses and hearing aids and dental exams and cleaning all are deductible. Now, this one. It's not deductible unless needed to correct a physical deformity. Now, I mean, if you got your face burned up, you know, and you have cosmetic surgery, it's deductible. And it was disfiguring you, okay? Personal injury. My son was coming home from work yesterday in Tennessee, and right in front of him, 2 cars hit almost head on, and 2 more plowed into him. So it was a 4-car accident, and he jumped out, and a bunch of them told to stay in the car. One woman scared to death to be in her car, and he helped her get out. But the one car got to most of the damage. I guess it was the Acura. He got the mom out of the car. She was bleeding, and I guess she tried to talk to him, and her tongue was half cut off. And her little 9-year-old kid was in the car, jammed. They had to take jaws of life to get the kid out. So I haven't talked to my son today if he found out that the mother lived. They rushed her to the hospital, but they said they thought she'd quit breathing. But and the little girl, to see how she was. but it bothered him to see that image. A lot of people that like to work in ER and they like blood and guts, you know, they like to see stuff like that. I don't. Not when some human being is suffering. 18 cents a mile. Now, cosmetic surgery. All right, if you were disfigured, or if you had personal injury or some deformity, okay? Now, if your face is causing you to have nerve problems, and that can be diagnosed by a doctor, your face is making you have real bad psychological problems. There may be a prescription where they can let you go have cosmetic surgery and it's deductible, okay? But if your face is causing you to have psychological problems, you got problems. See, the old mile was 17. That's went up to 18. You can deduct meals and lodging up to a certain amount, and you still can get $50 a night for lodging. And when I was battling cancer with my wife, she was battling cancer for 13 years. We had to go to Richmond a lot, MCV and MCU, what have you. And we had to go to Bowman Gray out in North Carolina, Winston-Salem a lot. And sometimes I'd stay with her 3 or 4 days at a time. I had meals and lodging and the gas mileage and also the motel. But when I took her to Richmond, they called it a hospitality house. There was a hospitality house there for 4 hospitals. You could get a bedroom, and the bedrooms were pretty nice. You didn't have TV or phones. But anything you wanted to donate, and they suggest $20 a night if you can donate 20 a night. It wasn't bad, and I could walk to the hospital from here. And thing about it, they had kitchens, you could make your own food, and they had food there that you could make. And foundations and churches and people donated to them. It was a good cause. They even kept cancer patients. They had refrigerators for cancer patients, keep their meds in. And it was a good thing. Hospitality house. See, McDonald's, don't they have a McDonald's home at some of the hospitals for? We got to look at that 10%. You can deduct the premiums. Persons cannot perform at least 2 of the following tasks for at least 90 days. Then you could be in, if you can't do 2 of these tasks for 90 days, you qualify for long-term care. All right. We take these things for granted. Okay. But a lot of older people can't do those things. Okay. They can't eat. They need to be fed or bathed or dressed. And toileting, you probably have to diaper them. Now here's the capital items: eyeglasses, service animals. If you got an artificial leg, it qualifies. If you got an artificial arm, it qualifies. If you got a CNI dog, it qualifies. Swimming pool might be deductible. And entrance ramps. So a whole lot of things come under medical is what I'm trying to show you. Inpatient hospital, that's deductible. Whatever they charge you is deductible. Hospital, nursing home, school, so forth. Now, basically, that is the medical. However, That brings us up to page 8. Page 8. But now I want to go back to this form here real quick if I can. All right, part 1. Okay, look at part 1, medical. Lines 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's all your medical dental expenses, including transportation, crutches, and wheelchairs. Now enter the amount from line 38, which is your AGI, adjusted gross income. You're going to multiply that by 10% usually. So if your income was 100,000, 10% of that is 10,000. But this up here may be 15. If your medical expense was 15 minus 10, you're still going to take 5,000 medical expenses. Now, my daughter pays over 15,000 a year for medical insurance for a family of 4. Okay, so insurance can run it up that much. My son-in-law had back surgery, and I think his part of the bill was about 25,000. So your medical expenses can run you up there. If you have dental implants or dentures or even partials or caps, that gets expensive, don't it? Okay, medical. Now turn your books to page 5-8. Now, since I've got since my PowerPoint is for 18, I'm trying to be careful and not give you any wrong information because our book is 19. Now, timing of deduction, if you pay by credit card on 12/31/18, it qualifies, even if you don't pay the credit card bill to February. So prepaid expenses are deductible only when services are rendered. Not anybody prepays their medical bill, do you? Well, now here's taxes. Now I want you to look at page 9, definition of a tax. All right, these non-tax items include motor vehicle registration and tags and tow charges and parking meters and sewers and water and special assessment are not taxes. Now look at what is taxes. State, local, and foreign real property tax. Property tax. Now that's foreign, personal property tax. Now you pay a property tax, you pay a real estate tax on your land and house. You pay personal property taxes on anything that has wheels on it. Cole, you got a car? Do you get a personal property tax bill on it in West Virginia or your parents? Jonathan? Don't know. Clayton, you don't know? Well, somebody's getting a personal property tax bill on your car. All right. And if your parents own real estate, they're getting that bill too. But now looking at your book, it still gives you the state, local, and foreign real property taxes. State and local personal property taxes. State, local, and foreign income tax, wage profits, and excess profits. So income tax. Other state, local, and foreign taxes are paid. Generally, taxpayers can deduct state and local sales tax unless they make an election to deduct their state and local sales tax. Now, Tennessee does not have state income tax, so it's okay if they deduct sales tax based on their income. Now here though, says limits on itemized deductions for state and local taxes. Now Trump did this situation. Let's look at example 8 on page 10. June 18, Rita had $1,500 in state income tax withheld from salary. On April 15, 19, April pays an additional $400 when she files her state income tax. If the sum of her itemized deductions for 2018 exceed the 2018 standard deduction, for 2018, Rita may deduct as an itemized deduction, let's see, the $1,500 to have on your W-2 form. The $400 that she pays on April 15th is added to her itemized deduction next year. But still, I'm not seeing a limit on I still do not see a limit on state income tax, but I think Trump put one, and hopefully we'll run across it later. All right, now, self-employment tax, we know that Social Security, you pay 7.65% Social Security. You got to double that if you're self-employed, and that would be 15.3. All right, but IRS lets you deduct half of that as an adjustment, taxes. All right, now we're on the next itemized deduction topic, interest. This is number 3. Remember, medical is number 1, tax is number 2, interest is number 3. Interest paid on a mortgage, interest paid on student loans, investment interest treated different, non-deductible, automobile loans, credit card loans. All right. Anybody have a credit card? Who has a credit card? You pay in that interest code, or you keep it paid up?
I keep it.
You don't pay any interest there. It's not deductible. It used to be, but it's not now. Is anybody paying on a car loan? Nobody? If you were, the interest is not deductible. Now, what is deductible? The main thing is a home. Main thing is a home. Now, how much of a home? How much? You can buy $1 million home and deduct the interest on it. Boy, once it goes over $1 million, you got problems. You and me will usually not have that trouble. We'll be able to deduct it. And now we've discussed this before. Itemized deductions are from, okay? Now, a student loan on the front of your form might be a deduction for, okay? Student loan is the deduction for, that's that interest. And you can see here is from itemized deductions. Investment interest is limited to the net investment income. I'll show you where to put that later. Now, these are other itemized deductions. Mortgage must be to acquire a home. Now, that could be a mobile home, a double wide, a single wide. It can be a tree house. It can be a boat, whatever. You can deduct mortgage. All right. Now, let's see if we can find those limitations in your books. I can't find any limitations, but it's $1 million. All right, look at page 14, example 12, 712. On March the 1st of the current year, Joe borrows $100,000 and immediately deposits the funds into an account that contains no other funds. He makes an additional deposit or payment or none on May the 1st of the current year. He withdraws $40,000 from the amount and purchases a sailboat to be used for personal purposes. He cannot deduct the interest on that sailboat. On July the 1st, he withdrew an additional $50,000 and purchased a passive activity. For the current year, the interest on the loan is categorized as follows. All right, they give you that investment interest. We'll have to look at some ironclad examples of that. If it was on a home, it is deductible. On a boat, it is not. Passive activity, it's iffy. We'll have to work on the iffy part. I do not see those limitations here. But I'm sure it's $1 million. Trying to find that once again. It's got to be in here. Limitations. If you pay points, you can deduct those points. I think it's $1 million. Then it's $100,000 on a home equity loan. We will run into that. All right. Qualified residence. You may have two qualified residents, your principal home, one other residence that is considered personal under. If taxpayer uses or exceeds a greater of 14 days or 10%, it's called a second home. Now, a lot of people may buy a home down at the beach. If you're staying over 14 days, it's considered personal. But you can rent it out and call it rental property. Of course, a lot of people's beach houses, probably in North Carolina, were in trouble, weren't they? All right, here's your $1 million. I'm sure it's still around. Limit to the first $1 million of a home. $500 if you're married filing separately. A home equity loan is usually $100,000. You deduct the interest on it. Now, one way to deduct interest on your automobile. All right, you're paying interest on a home and you're itemizing. You want to buy this $30,000 automobile. If you get a personal loan or automobile loan or the car company, it's not deductible. But if you go get $30,000 as a home equity loan, you can deduct the interest and you can take that loan and buy that car. So that's a way around at least one item. Points can be deducted or just a percent of a loan. If you ever buy a home, be careful. Some will charge you 5 points, and then they'll just charge you a very low interest rate. But now points on the average around here, I think, is 1%. That's of the loan up front. So be careful how much points you pay. All right, student loan interest. Do any of y'all have a student loan? You do, Jonathan? What's the deal on that now? You get out of after you graduate and work 6 months, you start paying or what? But you deduct student loan interest as an adjustment from the tax form. All right, let's go over to one more topic. We'll get these topics at least briefly exposed today. The next topic, charitable donations. Page 21, charitable donations. All right. Do any of y'all believe in giving 10% of your income to charity? Hold on. You can't give a percent if you don't make any. Jonathan, of course, yours all goes for school, doesn't it? So it's hard to classify a college student as given to charity, okay? Giving your time is probably the best thing. But anyway, a lot of people believe in giving 10%. A lot of churches preach 10%. What do you think that'd be 10% off? Gross or net? 10% of gross or 10% of net? People look at it different. I've had students, they believe it's 10% of net. I've had other students say, no, it's gross, 10% of gross, because you should give charity their part, or God, if you're giving to church, you should give God his part before the government gets their part. But I think it's 10% of what you net and have to live on. That's my opinion. Do you know, I have had students in the past, all right, they're paying IRS. They say, well, if I'm paying IRS 20% in taxes, that's my charity. Because IRS, our government's supposed to help the homeless, help the poor and the needy with Medicare and Medicaid. And our government, you know, helps flood victims. And that's my charity, is by paying my taxes. Now, that theory, I don't believe in at all. Okay? Now, there are other people like Cole, when he starts working. Let's say he draws a $2,000 paycheck. Net, he clears maybe $1,600. He cashes it. Now, Cole believes in throwing that $1,600 up in the air, and whatever God wants, he'll reach out and get it. And what falls to the ground is Cole's, you see. So, anyway, Cole, get the picture. The whole $1,600 will fall to the ground, won't it? Okay. All right. All right. Cash paid. You can give up to 50% of your paycheck as a charitable donation. IRS will let, if you make $50,000, IRS will let you give 25 of it away and deduct it as a charitable donation. Okay. Now you can also give property, but there's situations about property that we have to look at. So look at page 21. All right, Clayton, can you mention a charitable organization? Any charitable organization? Can you, Jonathan?
Oh, just like anyone.
What?
Just like anyone.
Yeah, any charitable organization.
Red Cross.
Red Cross. And the Red Cross right now are trying to take up money to help flood victims, aren't they? Can you name one, Jonathan? What?
Employees for Todd's Club?
Yeah, yeah, that would qualify. Now, the college up here has a foundation, it qualifies. Code? What? Make a wish. I think most of those that would be on a qualified charitable donation list. Now, any church is. All right. But a communist organization is not deductible. So look at page 22 of your textbook. Now, I want to see if I can find something here real quick. You see this one right here? Schools. You can give to Bluefield State Foundation, it's deductible. You can give to hospitals. You can give to the federal or state government beyond taxes. Who's going to do that? All right. Private foundations, war veterans, churches. Now, what comes under all that? The Diabetes Association, the Polio Association, all these cancer associations and Alzheimer's associations, and everything association is usually tax deductible. So look at page 22. United States, the District of Columbia, state or possession. You can give to corporation, trust, community chest fund, foundation. You can give it to a Veterans of Foreign War Post, a fraternal society, certain cemetery companies. All right. I believe even a pet cemetery. Now look under public charities, churches or a convenient association of churches, educational institutions, hospitals, medical schools, governmental units, private operating foundations. But again, all these charities, but now most of them are deductible. But be careful of all these TV commercials for charity. Yeah, I got a call and I pledged $30 for breast cancer, and I just got the bill, I think, the mail yesterday. So $30. So there's all kinds of cancer, particular types of cancer, multiple myeloma, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and what have you. Okay. But make sure when you give to charity that it goes to charity. Now, I don't know where the best place for you to donate. Have you been asked to donate to the flood victims down in North and South Carolina? Jonathan, where do you work? What? Was it Food City or it was a food store I heard on TV, I believe in Bluefield, West Virginia. They were taking up donations for flood victims. What you all?
That's positive. That was,
Yeah, I'm gonna check on it. But just make sure it goes to the flood victims. It's nice to help. They need clean water and they need food. We'll look at these rules later. All right, now limits of 50% is cash donations. 30% would be probably other than cash. 20% is private operating foundation. But this 30% is usually capital gain property. All right, we need to look at those limitations, study those well when you read, starting on page 25. You can carry those over also. All right, next one, casualty or theft. we need to know these three limits. All right, miscellaneous itemized deductions. We need to look at a list of those. Now, one of them is safe deposit bonds. If you pay 50 or 100 a year for safe deposit bonds. Another one is work clothing. If you are required to have work clothing, if you have to wear a uniform, pay for it, it's deductible. If you're under 2% limit. I don't guess if you're in the military, your uniform should be furnished, but if you buy an extra one or whatever, it's deductible. You have to buy a uniform where you work. If you worked at McDonald's and you had to buy a shirt that said McDonald's on it, it'd be deductible. If you have to use a telephone for work, it would be deductible. If you make a lot of income, you got to phase out itemized deduction. So I want you to look at this chart on page 28, study it. And then I want you to look at casualty and theft losses. Okay, now what is a casualty loss? What is a casualty loss? Come on, one of you know it. What is it, Clayton? Either one of you ever wreck a car and not have insurance on it? But they casualty, wouldn't it? All right. What if your home was flooded away? That's a casualty. Now, a flooding, your tax book used to say a casualty, most of them are caused by acts of God. But they substituted God now for nature, acts of nature. We've had plenty of floods, fires. Fires sometimes are acts of nature, sometimes not. We've had earthquakes, mudslides, what have you. Wind damage down in North Carolina, flood damage down in North Carolina. I'm sure there's fire damage down in North Carolina. They got it all, except the earthquakes. Okay, so a casualty, listen up. If you lost an $8,000 automobile and had no insurance, that is a casualty loss. But if your adjusted gross income was $20,000, now IRS requires you to take away a flat 100. That means you can deduct 79. But they require you to take 10% of your AGI, which is $2,000. So pretty soon, they don't give you as much as you think for a casualty loss. You start out with 8, you have to deduct 100, you subtract 10% of AGI, and you get your casualty. Now that's what they'll tell you, and we'll have more of that in future chapters. But this is mentioned on page 28 of your textbook. I want you to look at compliance and procedure and so forth. Now I want you to look at page 7-35. 7-35. All right, I want you to fill in the medical part. All right, I want you to fill in the medical. Let's say line 1 is $16,000. 1040, line 38, let's say is $60,000. All I take these two amounts, medical expense. Go ahead and write in your books if you want to. It's not any good next year. So on line 1, put $16,000. Line 2, put 60. Now, line 3 is tricky here. Change that line 3 to 10%. You'll look at that later. Change line 3 to 10%. So what do you have on line 4? What do you have on line 4? Clayton don't have a book. Do you have that form, Clayton?
Yeah, I got the form. I just can't write it.
Right. Okay, so what is on line 4 then, Jonathan? All right. Okay, you put 16, and then 10% of 60 is 6. 6 from 16 is 10, isn't it? All right, now you can see, now if it's a married couple filing jointly, the bottom line of that page has to be 24,000. A married couple filing jointly can get 24,000. A single person gets 12,000. A head of household gets 12,000. Married separate gets 12,000. So a lot of itemized deductions are going to bite the dust this year, but we have to cover them. It's an important chapter. All right. All right, B, starting on problems, the even problems. Okay. And read that chapter. We will start it. Now, we will also get to chapter 6, but your next test may be on chapter 5 and chapter 7. Chapter 5 and chapter 7 will probably be your next test. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go early today. I probably should have stayed home this morning the way I was coughing and didn't sleep with it, as sinus, but I made it. But I'm cutting things a little short today, okay?